We're going to move on now to the Indianapolis Colts, who kicked off their draft with the, I guess it wasn't kicking off their draft. They traded for Matt Ryan. They got their quarterback in place. Now their draft consisted of this big three: Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, and Bernhard Raymond, who I guess I'll just jump into this right away. You guys know how I felt about Raymond before the draft. I called him my bust because I thought he was going to go in the first round. Well, that kind of changed, to be honest, and I graded that in A, because you get an offensive lineman with a first-round talent and the potential to be that type of player in the third round. I mean, Raymond was incredible at Central Michigan. I shouldn't say incredible because I was dogging him at one point, but this pick is honestly one of the best value picks in the draft because of this guy's ceiling. He can be an all-pro tackle in this league. And we talk about how special the Indianapolis Colts offensive line has been in the past. I think they just got even better with selecting Bernhard Raymond in the third round. I think this is a really good pick for the Indianapolis Colts, one of the best value picks in this draft. And I know with my grade, I had it. I called him a bust before the draft, but giving him an A as the 77th pick is it's perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think you're a bust when you're projected possibly to go in the first round. Somebody calls you, that would be the biggest bust, and then you drop to the third round where you probably should be going anyways. I think that you can almost start to look at that as a steal, right? Somebody that, again, people were talking about him going in the first round, so
pretty high too.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I think when I mocked him, I had him going to Pittsburgh in the second round. So now you're talking about third round. Yeah, I think that's a win there. And especially for a team that's lost Mark Lewinsky, that's lost some offensive line help, I think he'll be a nice addition to what they're trying to do there, especially in a run-heavy offense.
Yep. Let's go deeper into this draft here. Well, actually, not even deep. It's their first pick in the second round, selecting Alec Pierce. And AJ, I'm going to throw this one up for you because, well, you are the Cincinnati Bearcat guy on the show. Alec Pierce is a Bearcat, and you gave that one a, let's see here. You gave that one an A. Wow, it's just 4 straight A's right off the jump for the Indianapolis Colts. What does Alec Pierce bring to the table for the Indianapolis Colts?
Gives Matt Ryan a downfield target. I mean, I know Michael Pittman's talented, don't get me wrong. I know Paris Campbell's fast, don't get me wrong. But what Alec Pierce does best, if anything, is to step on that line, beat the receiver, and then stack them beat the cornerback and then stack them all the way down the sideline. He puts the quarterback in an easy position when they have to make a throw. It's not very often he's going to be somewhere where the quarterback's forced to do something dangerous. And let's be honest, Matt Ryan, now he has a line, maybe he won't. He'll sometimes put up a dangerous ball and throw it. So Alec Pierce, just physical, fast, 6'3", and explosives off the break. I think it was like 13 or 14 catches of over 20+ yards last season. He's a real deal deep ball threat. When I originally thought about the Colts, I thought they needed a gadget type of player, but they felt differently. They went and got another big body type guy. So now everyone kind of seems to be going that physical route, having Michael Pittman, 6'4", 6'5", large catch radius on one side, Alec Pierce, wherever you line him up, whether it be at the 2 or in the slot to see if he can beat a receiver across the middle and take it up. 6'3", 205, 210, and explosive. That's the route they kind of go. So I like the Alec Pierce pick. It's a good talented receiver, especially where you got him. And at that point in time, there was a little bit of a run on receivers anyway. So he kind of fit in right. He kind of got in right where he fit in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I the potential is there for the Colts with Alec Pierce. Aaron, you liked a certain mid-round pick for the Colts. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, for me, it was Nick Cross. I loved the addition of them going out and getting a Stephon Gilmore to add to that secondary. Kind of the weakest part of their team has been kind of their pass rush at times, but they've kind of beefed up that defensive line. Obviously, they have Darius Leonard in the center. They add Stephon Gilmore, and now you add a guy like Nick Cross. This is a Maryland safety. You were talking about a guy who runs 4.34. He's physical, quick trigger, knows how to diagnose the run, and they say all gas, no brakes. Like, this dude is going to play at a speed on the field that a lot of players just aren't playing with. He loves to get physical, can tackle really well. I think he is the type of player that is going to help the Colts defense take that next step. This was already a really good defense last year. I believe they led the league in turnovers last year. This is another kind of player that's going to be a playmaker on that side of the football. And for a team that, I will say it, I felt like they were a quarterback away from probably doing some damage in the postseason because Carson Wentz was the guy. Now you go get a Matt Ryan. I think with the addition of the defensive player, adding an Alec Pierce, who's a big-time playmaker, I really like what the Colts did in this draft. For the limited amount of draft capital that they had, especially. We're not talking about high draft picks, no first-rounders. The second rounder was 53, so it wasn't at the top of the second round. They addressed need. They went wide receiver. They went tight end. They went offensive line, and then they went secondary with their first 4 picks. I thought those were positions of need, and they got really good players. But Nick Cross is going to be an impact in that secondary. I truly believe that. It's gonna help them this year, especially in the NFC South or AFC South. Sorry, that's up for grabs.
Yep. AJ, what's your dislike with the big tight end selection in the later rounds of Andrew Ogletree?
Just don't understand. I don't get it. I mean, I get that you lost Jack Doyle, but guys like you and I, we've been watching Gigantor come along. And if they didn't like Gigantor, a.k.a. Mo Alley Cox, they went ahead and got a second one in Jelani Woods with their second pick in round 3. Jelani Woods is 6'8", like 260, and can catch the ball. Finally got his chance at Virginia Tech, scoring, I think, double-digit touchdowns last year after spending 3 years as a blocker. So he's almost a full package. He can block as a bookend tight end very well because he's done it for 3 years, and he can catch. And he's a giant target in the end zone. Then you go and you get a guy in Andrew Ogletree, and sure, it's a 6th round, say what you will, but we're talking about a guy who's 6'5", 260, and has never found a way to produce, even at the FCS level. I think it was something weird like I think he had 3 touchdowns he had 10 touchdowns, 785 yards over three seasons. Even if you want to get him as a blocker on the FCS level, he had problems like that. I would have rather seen them go a different route, even if you're getting depth pieces somewhere else. I mean, if you wanted a blocker, Jamari Salyer, the guard from Georgia, went 2 picks later. Cade Mays from Tennessee, the tackle, went about 5 picks later. There was other places I think they could have gone there. If you really needed a tight end that you wanted to come in and block, I mean, you could address that in undrafted area after the draft was done, in my opinion, and found some guys who were a little bit higher up on draft boards, a little bit more talented, so to speak, at that pick. So I just didn't think they needed to go there. I think they could have done some other things. And if you were going to go there, I mean, Grant Calicatero was like 4 picks later, you know, and he was somebody everyone toted up a little bit higher.
Well,
I think they just paid Mo Alley Cox. Like, yeah, I agree with it. They just literally signed him to like a 3-year extension. You bring in a Jelani Woods. The only thing I can think of is, again, maybe they feel like they needed some depth at the position because of the Jack Doyle. They didn't really have anybody else on the roster. I believe maybe Grants, like a Kylan Granson or something like that, but not a lot of depth there on the roster outside of a Mo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods. So maybe this was more of a depth pick, best available type in the 6th round if they thought that's where he belonged. But I agree with AJ. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that pick as well. To me, I mean, they like the big tight ends, I guess, and you just give Matt Ryan as many weapons as you possibly can. You know, that's
or perhaps maybe it's like, hey, let's draft 2 of them because if Jelani Woods doesn't pan out, maybe we need to take another shot at the guy. It's the old Robert Griffin III, Kirk Cousins draft, right? Take one early and take one later, and maybe that first guy that's supposed to pan out doesn't, and you have somebody in reserve there if you feel like you don't have a lot of holes elsewhere.
But for a team that for a team that's battling for that hierarchy of the AFC, the team that's battling in the AFC that is up there with, I mean, you're trying to keep pace. It's an arms race. We talk about it all the time. Would you rather them take a pick on a position that's not? I mean, it's the 6th round, so you have. But like
they have very few needs. The Colts really have very few needs. We talk about weapons. They addressed it with Alec Pierce, and they addressed it obviously with Jelani Woods. Offensive line, they needed to beef up. They did that. They did address that. Every pick that the Colts took was a position of need coming into the offseason. The rest of their team, running backs, defensive line for the most part, linebackers, they're pretty set there. They they've addressed these in offseason free agency. I think they just said, these are the positions we need to get better at. So we are going to take these positions. And I'm not mad at that for a team that doesn't really have a whole lot of glaring holes.
Let's take a look at the overall results of our draft grades. The GPAs for these teams looks like this. The Tennessee Titans with the lowest at 2.79, which is still not, that is still passing. That is still a passing GPA. That I would know because it's pretty damn close to what I got at Full Sail to graduate. Then the Colts at 3.17. Then you got the Texans at 3.65. And the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3.35. I mean, that Texans grade, very, very high. Might be the highest.
It speaks to the depth. It speaks to the depth. I believe their first 5 or 6 picks, we all had high A's all the way to high B's as far as their grades. So they had a really, really deep draft. Really impressed with what they did. But like I said, to me, the winner of the division was still Jacksonville. I believe I had them pretty close side by side, but to me, Jacksonville, the top end of the draft, just was super impressive to me. And you know how I'm a big fan of Trayvon Walker, and I think he's going to be a game changer on that defensive side of the football for them.
I think that, so I'm looking back at the statistics here, and based on our GPAs, the Houston Texans are the highest graded team in our draft at that 3.65. They just edged out the Seattle Seahawks, who were at 3.52. So that is the highest grade that we have given out. That's also including the teams that are to be released on YouTube tomorrow, which you guys will have to be locked in the Sac City Pod on YouTube.